Good afternoon guys, how are you all doing? So at last we are now sitting on the bench, all ready to start Ryefield M1240A1 M-ATV. Basically it's an M-wrap and it's basically what the Americans use at the minute. I haven't gone into a massive history lesson about it and researched it because it's just a modern vehicle that has been used in Afghan, Iraq and stuff like that. So modern day Iraq, sorry I should say that. I've done a couple of videos already about starting this and what sort of bits we've got and what, you know, I'm not going to do a review or an unboxing because there's no point. There's been that many to do with this kit already, and mine would probably just be a load of crap compared to all the others that are out there. So we've got the kit. I've got the resin wheels to add when we come to that stage, and then I would also hope that by the time we come to it, the radio interior set will be here off Bill Ray, who's very kindly sending me that. I don't know how many times or updates I'm going to do each week. I might try and do perhaps one a week for starters, or perhaps one every 2 weeks. I don't know, because I've got other projects that I want to do, and I desperately don't want to get down to the stage where I'm stressing myself out and my mojo goes. At the minute my mojo is all over the place. One day I wake up and I'm dead excited, I want to do stuff on the bench and all sorts, then the next day I could sell it all and get rid of it. I didn't want it, any sign of it whatsoever. So right, so part one, what we'll do is you've seen this. I'll take the top off. You can have a look at some of the bits that are in there, and then I shall basically go through how I've prepped and what I've done for this this part, and then we might, if we've got time, we might try and clip a bit of plastic off. I'm going to try and aim for no longer than an hour tops each section. It is a very complicated kit because it's got a full interior, so it's going to take a while, and it's my very first ever build along as well guys, so please bear with me. Sometimes I'm going to be off the camera cutting parts, you know, there's going to be all sorts of mistakes. You'll probably hear the dog barking and everything. So you know, I'm not a professional modeller, and I'm nowhere near being a professional modeller. I just enjoy the hobby, but what I've learned over time and whatever else, I'd like to pass on to somebody. If I just help that one person with a tip or a trick or something that you didn't know before, then I'm happy. I've job done, you know. But the main thing that I could ever teach anybody is just enjoy it. Which some days you will, some days you won't, and I think it's taken me a long time to learn that, and I get really frustrated and upset with myself sometimes. And I think, you know, it takes a couple of good friends, Greg and Al, to say, you know, it's going to be there when you're ready for it, you know, it's not going anywhere, and it's true, isn't it, you know. Right, so first things first then, I've pre-planned the build already. I've got all the bits of books and everything for reference material, so we can put them on the side because we don't need them at the minute, because this first stage is going to be just going through little bits and bobs. So when I come to start a new build, all of the around me and in the cave tour that I've just done the video previous to this one, I wanted to do that first so you could see the cave. Today I've gone through a bit of dusting here and there, cleared away bits and bobs all ready for this part. So I know now if I clip anything and it flies off, and if in a couple of days I look for it and find it, I know it's for this kit. So there's that. I will also as well go through the parts with you, not the parts, what we're going to do. So everything's out of the box already. Okay, so that's all done. I've labelled each bit up, so on the sprue bit, so I can see it a bit more clearer. Ryefield though is pretty good. They tend to have the, you know, the letters all ready. I am very impressed already with the detail in this kit. Some of the moulding is absolutely stunning. It really is. I mean, there's two machine guns there, and they're that well moulded that you probably wouldn't get any better than that in resin or white metal, to be fair. So I've labelled up the clear parts. I've just put that on the package because you don't want to open the clear parts because you could scratch them and that, so you want to try and keep them covered. I haven't labelled up the tyres because we know the tyres and we know where they are. So and also I've got the resin ones. So these are well detailed though, so I may end up using those. The bonnet is just one part, the hood, or the bonnet as we say over in Britain. And then of course the main sort of what do you call it, the same canopy, the main part of the vehicle. Then in the bottom we've got all extras and that, you know, like the photo etch and stuff, so I'll put that onto one side. So in this you can either have the Polish Special Forces M-ATV, which we've said, or we could have the US. I'm building this because I want to hopefully add it to a project and later, either this year or next year, I don't know. I'm sorry about the glare, guys, because I can't really do much about it because it's glossy paper, so it's just what we're sort of stuck on, I'm afraid, so I apologise about that. So I'm going to be doing it the US version, so although the Polish one would go very well with the Rozomac that I've got, but still, anyway, by the by. So we'll do it the US version, okay? So that's the paint call out there, which I've been through, and I've checked all my stocks of paint and whatever else, and I've got in what I wanted. I'm going to be using Tamiya acrylics or Tamiya, in fact I think I'm going to be using Tamiya lacquers. Either or, when it comes to it, I have got both because I've just made sure that I've got them all in the colours that I will need. The detail painting, I always use Model Colour or I use Panzer Aces, which are both Vallejo. I love them a lot, they're brilliant. The odd occasion I will use MIG ammo for the odd bit, and the odd time I might use, what do they call them? Hang on a sec. Live colour. I like live colour a lot as well. For some of their paints are quite nice, but they're a bit of an arse to paint with if you don't know how to use them. The metals, I shall be using AK Extreme Metals because I tend to use that for all of my metals. So again, I've been through all the call outs for the interior and the engine, and I've got everything in, so I know I can go ahead with that. Okay, so there's that. Right, so we go over. The first thing to note is all the assembly icons and that Ryefield use that you need to know, because if you don't, you know, you might get stuck and do something that they don't want you to do. Now, one of the main things when I first tackle a kit or look at a kit that I want to do is you look at the parts count. So I know it's a brand new kit, but I would still just double check that you have got bits and the pieces are all on the sprues, and if it's fallen off the sprue, it's in the bag, because you don't want to get through 3/4 of the build and then find out that one majority part is missing and it balls up the whole build. So you know you need to check that. I know that there's photo etch in it from this, so I have got my photo etch tools all over, which I showed in my cave tour. They're all ready to go. Where are we now? He says. So they're all here. I've got the bender, I've got the thing to put over the top so I can see when I'm cutting it. I've got the scissors, a fresh blade on that to cut the metal with, and all my dowels in different sizes for if I need to bend a piece of metal that's, you know, that size. If not, then it doesn't matter, because I can just do it by something else. And I've also got this from the Tamiya. I think this is out of a Tamiya part where you had to bend one of the pieces, so they gave you a little jig. So I always save those. That's a good tip, that is. If you ever get any jigs or anything from the kits, save them, because they'll always come in handy sometime or another. Right, so we've got all that ready. Okay, so I know that that's over there and all ready to go. Right, next thing you need to check is your glues. Now, with this being armour, I tend to use, for me thick gloopy glue, I tend to use the Ryefield contactor. I like it. It's one of the better ones on the market for me, and it's got, you know, the pin that you can sort of add to, you know, glue to its fine points. So the hot glues, I shall be using 2 hot glues, and these will be the obligatory Tamiya Extra Thin, the classic one, and then the newer one, the Tamiya Extra Thin Cement, which is the quick setting stuff. Now these are from Ultimate UMP. I like these because the glue goes into them, and it is quite hard to knock the glue over. So, you know, there you go there. Now I try and have everything in my workbench in the same area so I know where I'm going to. Okay, right, white glues. I've got my Canopy glue from Zap, and I've also got the Crystal Clear. I will probably use the Crystal Clear more than that at the minute because I'm running out of that, but that's my favourite one go-to, so I should be using them. That's all in. Metal PCs, photo etch PCs, obviously you're going to need CA glue. So my go-to CA glue is the Zap ones. So I've got let's put them this way, the thin hot one, which runs is like liquid, and the moment you open it you've got to move your fingers quickly or you get stuck to it. Then the medium one, which is sort of my go-to one more so, that's got a sort of a lot slower drying time. And then basically the thick one, which is very slow cure, but it's got a really good high grip strength as well. So I tend to use that for buildings and bits and bobs like that if needs be. So I've got those all in stock ready to go. So that's them. Right, masking tape. We're going to need masking tape on some part, whether it's to mask or whether it's to hold a couple of bits together. I've got them all ready to go, and I've also got the thinner ones that, if needs be, down in the drawer, which I showed in the cave tour. Then we have decals. So towards the end of the build, we're going to have to add decals to the model. So my go-to ones are your Microset, Set and Sol. And then if the sol doesn't sort of melt the decal and it doesn't look very good, then I shall either use one of these following 3. I'll either use the Solver set, which is good, but it's not quite as harsh as this one. The Daco products, this comes in 3 versions, a lot like the other one, and I've got the strong ones basically on the thing for Tamiya decals, because we all know Tamiya haven't got the best of reputation for decals. However, I've never had a problem with any Tamiya decals, but this does literally obliterate them and melts them down. And I will say that the one that I go to at the minute is the UMP decal setting the decal setting solution, which is the extra strong stuff. Now this is brilliant, it really is. That makes your decals look like they're painted on, so that's quite good. And then I have 3 brushes, each on the end are taped, so I know which ones are for which. They have not been to near any paint or anything, and after the end of each wash, at the end of each decal part and done, the completion of every build, they get washed in warm soapy water and then just left to dry as normal brushes. So that's that. So that covers the decal stuff. Masking solutions, I use the Mr. Masking Sol R, so I've got that in ready to go if needs be. And then we'll come down to our tools. So on the tools, firstly, sprue cutters, which will help. So sprue cutters, I've got 3. You've got the sort of Tamiya very thin nibbed ones at the end, these, and then me Xuron ones. Now I've had these from the very start of my model building. I love them, they're brilliant. Now these take the chunks out of the really thick stuff, so they'll only be used if I think it's going to damage or there's going to be quite a bit of a tough, you know, clipping. These are a lot like the Tamiya ones, but a bit longer and a bit chunkier on top, so they will be used for the thin parts and probably the majority of the build. If I'm finding that parts are going to need to be cut a lot closer, then I shall get the Tamiya ones out of storage, so to speak. Right, so that's them. Okay, sanders. Now my sanders, I kept in my Darth Vader mug, and I basically use Flory Models sanders and UMP ones. Flory Models because they do these thinny sticks, which I love, They are great. They get into a lot of places quite easily. What else do they use? I like to use this one, which is quite tough and got a sponge on the back, and then this the spongy one, which will help. And then for the UMP, I like to use the chainsaw one, which is really, that'll take off everything. I like to use the buffing pad for polishing and stuff. I also like that one, which is another buffer. And then I use the Flooring Models one if needs be, but I barely ever use that one because those two come first. I also use, I think this is, I can't remember what productions this is. I think this might be Flexifile or something, but I use one of those. I've got a few of them which are a bit smaller than the other thinny ones, so they're quite good for even thinner. And then one of the Flooring Models thinny sticks buffers I use, I cut the ends off so I can just get in a bit thinner, so that's them. So they'll all be used. Now I only tend to use one or two at a time, so they will be those there, so I'll get them out. And that is them, all ready to go. Okay. Clamps and that, I use pegs and all that type of stuff. Cocktail sticks for the photo etch and super glue, and also a milk bottle top with, hopefully, there it is, a bit of blue tack just to go on the end, so that when you're trying to get the super glue off, it stops it from moving around everywhere. So there's them, all ready to go. And then the scalpel, I use this one, a Morton one. I just think it's just so easy. I just love them. They're just perfect for me. I wish they come with a bit of a top on though, because the amount of times that I've gone to get it and I've sort of caught myself is a bit of a pain in the arse. But still, that's just me being a dickhead. Anyway, that's just had a new blade on, so that's ready to go. Tweezers. You'll need some tweezers somewhere along the build. These are just some cheap black ones I've picked up. They come in 3 different, well, 4 or 5 actually I think they come in. But I tend to use the bendy ones, the very thin stick bendy ones, the thicker ones round the end, they'd be used, and the long, really pointy, sharpy ones at the end. But my favourite ones of all time are these Tamiya ones. I absolutely love these ones for Tamiya, so I tend to try and use those if I can. So they're there. Put them back down there. For the photo etch, you'll need a metal file, and I've just got these Tamiya basic ones, and then just these usual Flexifile ones. I think they were. Look, I do recommend getting some of these. These are tiny, but they'll get in the smallest of spaces, so you know they really are good to get. But you need to get some of these just for like taking the nibs off the top of the photo etch when you cut it, or you can use some of these from like your local pharmacy or chemist or whatever. They're basically toenail clippers, but they're brilliant and they're very sharp and they're good. For decals as well, I use the Tamiya craft tools ones if needs be, along with this Pro Edge blade, which is basically tiny like that. I showed it in the cave tour, and it just basically it spins round at the end, so you can get all the really tough bits, the tough decals that scissors you'll end up cutting through another decal to get to. So there you're good. So I've got some of them, and of course the other thing I didn't show you for decaling, for photo etch, are benders. So you try these are okay, these Tamiya ones. I've barely ever used those, and they tend to sort of bend out a little bit at the end, so they're not all that good, but they're expensive. I had them years ago, so but these jeweler's tools ones, dead cheap, brilliant. Got like a bit of a you know, crocodile type edge. And we've got scissors over there, and then another thing that I will say that I do use sometimes with the files, if I'm struggling to get a bit off, I have got 4 of these Master Tools files, which are pretty good actually. They've got all different ends, shaped ends and that, so you could use them, but I tend to use the thin one and that one quite a lot, because you can get on the end of the piece and then you can just chisel away, and it does work. They are quite good, but sometimes, yeah, I mean a lot of the time it's just a tool that, you know, do you need it really? Probably not, because you could use other stuff, but I'm a bit of a tool tart, so I like to try different tools out. And then of course drilling, you are going to have to drill some bits of holes in this kit, as I've researched and gone through it. So there's all different tools available for drilling. I've got this AK one that I've just recently bought. I just wanted to try it out, see what it's like. It's okay, it's no different to these cheaper ones. I've got a double-ended one, which I do like, and then this one. So basically these have got all the three that you tend to need in 1/35. So they're all good to go. And then I've got these little drill bits from AK that are your finger ones, so you could just pick your size out, which is all listed on there, and you just do it with your, use your fingers. But they are pretty good and they do work, so we're all good to go with them as well. So the first bit of the kit, what we'll do is, I haven't got much time tonight, so what we'll do is I'll just show you the tools of what we're going to be using. Now the instructions have got a correction sheet with them already. So what I've done is I've gone through each step and I've marked a little squiggle on each step where there's some difference, and I've circled which part is which and corrected it to what it should be. So now I will keep it though, because this needs to stay with the instructions. I know I can sort of fit along and go along with it. There's also, it tells you to call out which different vehicle you want to build, so the Polish one or the US one. So on here it's got in green writing for US vehicle, so I need to follow that stage on that. The other thing I would recommend to have, if you can, for one of your tools, is a pen. And now a lot of people like these type of markers as well, so they can mark off the bits of each step that they're done. Well, I do sometimes, but what I do is I tend to try and use just your normal pencil really, because then I always save every instruction sheet, so I can go back over it afterwards and just rub out the ticks and whatever else. But with the pen you can't, but of course I suppose it doesn't really matter because there's ways around that. But I always have a pen on hand and a pencil and a decent sort of ruler to have as well, just in case, and a rubber. I also use, as well as if you're doing, you're going to have seam lines and mainly aircraft really, one of these Pro markers from Winsor & Newton. They've got a thicker end and then they've also got a thinner end, and what I do is with these, the thinner end I use for labelling up a part on the back if I think I'm going to forget what part number it is or for which side of the build it's going to be for. And then also this side, if you've got seam lines that you need to get rid of when you're building, I tend to just go over very finely on the seam line, and then when you come to sand it, once you've sanded it, you can look at the pen and watch the pen disappear, so you know you're getting the right seam away. I picked that tip off somebody a few years ago, I think, but they're well worth getting anyway. I mean, necessarily you don't have to have one of them, you can just have a normal one, but I just thought one of those would do, so give it a go. And then the other thing I tend to try and have with me is some sticky notes, sticky pads, just for sticking on, say I'm on this part next, so if I'm going to be coming back to it in a couple of days, I can stick it on there and this is where I am next or whatever. But also I could I can leave little notes for me to remind it, little bits that I can do to remind me. So there's that. What else do I need to show you just in case before we start? Oh yeah, the other thing that I like to do, I like to have little bits of like sandwich like boxes. So like I've got two kits behind me on the shelf, so I'm building it in a minute, and they've each got a separate one, so then you can keep this on top of the box and slide the box into where I keep my ongoing builds, so I know all the little bits and everything are going to be kept in there. Keep the top on if you want or not, I don't necessarily all the time. I tend to just use, can't you tell I'm ready for this? I tend to just use a little sandwich little box thing like this, just a little tub to keep all the little bits in, that can go inside, and then there you go, you're well away. Or a lot of people can just stick the parts back in the box. I just like to be a bit more organised, that's all. So basically, in a nutshell, after that we are now ready to go to start work on this kit. So I'll tell you what we'll do. I've got a clipboard here as well, which is hanging up underneath the trays here. So what I tend to do is fold the instructions round, and I tend to just keep them on there so they're out the way, they're off the bench. Undo your what's it bits, there we go. I'll get my old knackered rhyming thing out so you can see. Now, like I said guys, you're going to have to bear with me because this is my first time I've ever done one of these. So for the first one, what we'll do is we'll just do the first crankshaft. So we need F18 and C21. So F15 and C21. I mean, eventually what I can do is I can start making sure that each sprue that I'll be coming to and needing, I can just get for each part already. So obviously this is all what you call a learning curve, isn't it? You know, so once you've so now I know that next time I come to put the video on for the next part, I could have them sprues ready at the side to go, so I don't have to rumble through each one. Right, so we're on F18. So F18, which is there. Always double check the part with the instructions, so you don't want to get too what's it, and then just cut over it like so. I've noticed already with this, sometimes you get these ejector parts in the back, which can be a bit of a pain in the ass, so that'll need to come off. But what I tend to do is I cut the parts out first so I know what we've got and what we need. Now there's 2 sprues of C, so I'm taking it that there's going to be double parts everywhere, so there's C21. And there we go for the first part. Oop. And that's of course the first problem you have, is dropping everything on the floor for the carpet monster. So we need to get rid of that. And what I would always suggest to do is as well is just dry fit everything to make sure what the seams are like and if they're going to fit or not. So they are going to work okay. So what I can technically do is, instead of cleaning the part up with the nib there, I can add it all around and get it on ready. Sometimes, I mean, with this extra thing you have to be fairly quick with the, see, can't you tell I'm nervous? It's going everywhere. I'm gonna have fingerprints everywhere from it. Now you can, if I wanted to now, I could actually put a clamp on that to try and get the seam to squeeze, the glue to sort of squeeze out, and then you can go in with, when it's 100% dry, go in with the sanding stick, and you can get rid of the seam, and then it'll make it look like it's one part. If of course you've done it properly and got it all right. This bit here, you need to be careful as well that they don't slip slightly, and then you've got a massive step in between each part. So that part now could technically save that on the side, because it's part of the next part obviously, but it's not, it can stay to dry first. So I'm just going to clean them bits off at the end first, leave that one on the side there. So we can add E33, let's find the E. So E's here. This is a thing as well, before you start cutting off all the parts, a lot of the parts will all get stuck into one another because of all the parts are obviously on the sprues still, so they'll get caught with each other. So you don't want to really, E64 is the next part, you don't really want to be ragging the parts, you know, out of each other, because you'll probably end up breaking another part. So you've got to be careful. E11 and E1 we need as well. So there we go. One thing about these Ryefield kits, I built the Abrams that they, was it the first kit they brought? No, it wasn't, was it? Their first kit was, I think it was the Tiger with the full interior or something. I don't know, I can't remember. But yeah, one of them was, they were just, the quality is brilliant. Now again, we've got some more bits that you're going to have to get rid of. I'm not bothered about them flying on the floor at the minute, because now there's a problem. Where you've cut the nib off, it's actually going to stop them going together, so this part is going to have to be properly cleaned before we stick it together. Now you can use your sprues, cutters, like so, to get rid of the majority of it, or you could use your sanding stick just on the edges. Which you're not getting particularly great with. So the flory one is working slightly, but it's not great. So what you can do is, this is where these other ones can come in. Hold it at a decent angle, so it's like a chopstick in a way. You don't want to take too much off, so if you just go a little bit, and just take that bit off there, there's that bit done. And just go over the other bit just to make sure. There you go, and there's that bit. Now the other part has also got bloody ejector pin mark growths, I'm going to call them, as over the line, sort of some alien species. So right, now I know that that part is going to work and go together. Just got to make sure though that they go on at the right place. So that part's top, and that's got to go around that side. So there we go. So they all fit, although that part there is stopping the sprue. So the tam this way, Tamiya quick setting stuff can come in. If you do it like a I forgot what you call it, method, where you just touch it and it'll run across down the seams for you. So there you go, and just hold that too. It should be done within a matter of seconds, that should. But again, we've got a bit of clean up we need to do on these bits here and there. But excuse me nails guys, I never bite my fingernails, apart from the other day. I was just, I don't know why, I think I was quite restless, and I woke up in the morning, I must have done them in my sleep, because I woke up the next day and I thought, oh, my fingers are hurting, and come to it, and it bloody, what's tea them, I bit them, so it must have been in the night. Right, so there's a part there, so I don't want to cut it with the scalpel and sort of slip and take that part off. So I shall turn it around. Now, it's a fresh blade, so I don't recommend doing this properly, but what I do is, if I can, I try and just flick it up, but it's going to be a bit of a step. So I am actually going to try this tool to see if it'll work better with this. Now, as long as you're controlled right, there you go, look. You get rid of those bits there. Now, this is underneath the vehicle, so if it's attached to a diorama, there isn't many people that are probably going to see this. However, I'm one of those people that I know it's there, so I want to get it done properly, because it's going to play on my mind otherwise. There's another nib there that will come off, because now that you could actually use for your thing, because it's nice and high. So if any younger lads are watching this, don't do this method with the cutting, because if you one slip you'll take your finger off. But my fingers are that battle weary, shall we say, that it takes a lot for my skin to get cut. So just take it time, not putting a lot of pressure on, and then basically to clean it up, you can actually just give it a bit of a, hear that, a bit of scraping, and eventually you'll see the nib disappear. But you've got to be deadly careful and quite light-handed on it, because you don't want to sort of put too much pressure on that it destroys your part, so you've got to be careful. So there's that bit done. So we've now got is this the axle, is this, or the crankshaft, or whatever it's called. I don't know anything about cars or motors, guys. I'm one of those lads that was brought up with a football, so I sort of know anything about sport, rugby, football, boxing in particular, and footy, you know, soccer and stuff like that, as Americans would call it. Hey, did anybody watch the fight at the weekend? Tyson Fury. I'm a big boxing fan, so I actually paid for the fight stupidly. But wow, what a brilliant fight that was. Just go off subject a minute. There's a seam line right down the middle of this, so you can either scrape it off with your scalpel, which can work, or you can do it with the, you know, your sandy stick. But what you would do is with a circular part like this, instead of going over the top like this, I don't see many people doing it, but if you just try and do it that way, then you're not sort of taking the piece off. Or what you can do is, I've got some of these that I tend to mainly use for aircraft. That's disgusting, I haven't cleaned that one. Another good tool to keep with you is a toothbrush. If you can keep your toothbrush, and then what you can do is, you can just rub over the bits of your sanding, and look at that. I know it's probably all gone on there, but who cares, I'm just showing you. And you can use these. Now these are really good. The frames, you can actually squeeze in like that, so it'll actually bend round the part. See? So it does help sometimes, but I use these a lot for aircraft mainly. But they are quite a good tool to keep in your arsenal just in case. Again, toothbrushes, good to just getting all rid of the dust from out your sanding stick. There you go. Okay, so there's another good tip where you can use them. So yeah, let's go back. So yeah, the fight. Wow, I mean, just go back to this again as well. I tend to not follow the rules a lot of the time, so I don't tend to sand like that. I tend to sand all naughty ways. As long as it's gone, I don't care. Plus, a lot of people aren't going to really see this, so just give it a couple of swipes. Just double check, run your finger over it. And then there you go. But that's the proper method. I think I saw, who was it now, professional, I think it was Marcus Nichols or somebody like that doing it in one of his videos. In fact, it might have been Mike Rinaldi actually. I can't remember, it's one of them doing it, and that's how you should really do it. Do you know something? I haven't even checked if I'm actually on camera doing all this, but I take it I must be. So now we can tidy those two ends up in a bit when we get round to the part that they need to connect into, because they might just fit and I'm sanding it needlessly, so you know, we might be okay. So we've now got, we're on step one, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 bits to do. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do actually. Let's keep this down here so you can actually see what we're working on. Right, so that's that bit which we just done. Okay, this bit is there, that bit is there, and there's the shaft. So we now need to do this, which is C21 and F8. Well, here's F8, where are you, F8? This is another thing, of course, if you can't find the parts, you're going to look an idiot on. There's F8, and what was the other one we said? C21. So C21. I know a lot of guys for the sprues use dish, you know, your dishes racks that you can, when you've washed up and you put your dish in to dry, you can actually use some of those for your sprue separators, so you can put your sprues in. I was thinking of doing that, but the few of the ones you don't, in a way I think if I was to leave it overnight as well, you're just going to get dusty into your kit and all sorts, and I don't know, it's just not me. I might try it one day, actually give it a go, see what it's like. So C21. C21 and F8 we said, didn't we? Have we done that one? Oh, that's why. Because that's why there's two C21s, because we use C21 on this bit here. So here's the second C, and there's 21. So there we go. hate having things, or gets me head in. I don't like it when I can't, you know, put things together properly. Right, now these parts seem okay, and there's nothing that says you can't glue the bits, but it's exactly the same as that bit there, but it hasn't got the long arms on it. So add some of the normal stuff. Just put those bits in around the edges, because I can clean the bits up in a minute once done. Okay, so there's that bit, and then what I can do is just, if you pull it slightly, try and keep it balanced open. If you add a little bit in and squeeze it again, you can get rid of all the seam marks and that in it. So that's that bit. So while that's drying, I can come back to this first bit, which is F18 and C21, and then I can go over, try and get rid of this crank. Now where this bit is, it's going to sit like that, so I take it the vehicle's going on top, so it'll sit like that. So you're probably not going to see this bit, but just in case, because I am actually hoping to display the part with the bonnet open as though it's pulled over, and the idea is to have it as though it's coming into a gunfight in Iraq or Afghan somewhere. So that's my intentions for the idea. So this is more of it. You don't want to take too much off again, so there's a bit of a step there, so that's a bit annoying. So I'm going to use a bit of an easier one, not so harsh on the plastic. Just keep trying. Just go over the top of it as well, because there'll be a bump on top. And then just around the other end, just to double check on that. Now there's a bit of a part there where you've cut it off the sprue, the nib, is it, or something. Now one thing you need to be careful of as well, especially if you're working with resin, I know this isn't resin yet, but is the more you handle it, the warmer it will become. So especially plastic as well, with parts like this here on the edge that aren't all that solid, the warmer you make the plastic, the suppler and looser it will become, so you've got to be careful that you don't snap the part. Right, so I know that that's forward. Then this bit here comes in the middle, so that's got an end that I need to take off. So let's do that bit. Okay, so that's that bit. So I take it, it goes on, just try and find the two bit. Oh, I hate these little bits. So it looks like from the, always check the shape of it, and if there's anything on the part that you can distinctly see. So it goes, supposed to go in here, which it does. It literally is clipped in. Wow. But I think we need to just add a tad bit of glue just to make sure it's solid. But I mean, that is pretty solid. I mean, if you don't need to add any bits of glue, then you don't necessarily have to, but I would, just in case the top and the whole structure on the top is a bit heavy. So we were cleaning this bit up, weren't we? So I need this bit next, so if I finish cleaning this up, I'm actually going to use the knife, because there's some seam lines as well on some of the parts, so you want to just get. Now remember guys, I'm not professional by any stretch of the imagination, I aren't, but and you shouldn't really do this. If you're younger and up and coming, don't watch me doing this, for God's sake, I'll be sued. But sometimes it's a quicker way than pissing around with all your sanders to find the right one. But this is just me being picky here, because not many people are probably going to see this, and when it's all greased up and muddied up for the weathering, you're probably not going to see it. So right, next part is this part which we've made earlier. So we have a look at which way it is, and that bit there is quite distinctive, so we know that that goes forward, and this part should fit in there like so, which it does. So I'm just going to add a bit of glue around that. Add the part on. Oh, hang on, just this way, dude. There we go. Now, it does actually balance. So you just hold it for a couple of seconds, because although that's going to come off, it's a bit flimsy, so just hold it for a minute, because we don't want it to. In fact, if it does come off, you can just bloody add it on. There you go. That's pretty stuck. So, and then if you look at the bar, the shaft, we know that this bit at the end is on there, and this bit goes on to this bit that we've just made there. So in fact, what we'll do is, we haven't sanded the nibs off that bit, so let's just take the nibs off where I've cut it off the sprue. Yeah, it's my first build along, guys, this is, so be a bit nice to me, because I know I'm probably half the things you won't see me doing, because I'll probably be off camera doing it, or rattling a load of shit when I should be carrying on with it, so you know, that's okay. That's basically clean. Just take it off every couple of swipes, just checking, so you can see you're not going too far. And then one bit that you can do, again, for your toothbrush, just go through, get all the bits of dust off it. Just add on there, just double check the seams. They look okay. So what we'll do is we'll add this bit onto there, which goes, from the look of it, in the bottom, which is there. There we go. So you can add some quick setting stuff through. So I know it's tough. Let it do the, you know, I forgot what the method's called again. Do that, and then we can add this, which hopefully fits on and squeezes on in like that. So again, look at that, that's proper good craftsmanship, manufacturing. There's that bit. Okay, so just make sure it looks pretty safe. If you need something to be straight, you can either use your ruler, or you could do it by eye, and see all these grids on your cutting mats. You can always just do it by eye and just see that that is okay, but it's fairly flexible, so we know that if it's not, we could perhaps add a bit of extra thin and add it onto the joints, which it's a good bonder, Tamiya extra thin, but it's also a very good debonder as well, so you can put it on some dried extra thin and it'll make it work again, so you can potentially start moving the plastic again round. Right, so I'm going to move this box eventually, because I hate stuff on the workbench. I like it to be nice and clear. Don't know if anybody else does, but I do. So I'm going to put all these on here. Put it over there. Right, so I know that we've done this one, F18. We've done C21. We've done E33. We've done E64, we've done C21 and F8, E11 and E1. So what I do is then, I just tick at the bottom, so I know that that section is done. Okay, so the next part is A1. So what we'll do is, how long have we been on for so far? Doesn't say. So what we'll do is, the battery's about to die as well in me camera. So what she'll do is sometimes, if I know I'm going to be coming back in the cave a bit later, I shall leave it all on here, but I won't be today. So what she'll be doing is just put that back onto there in the safe a little bit, and I shall put everything back where it was before, so I can come in next time to a nice clear, clean workbench. So thanks guys for giving a watch of the first build along on Maltese military models. I've never done one before, so thank you guys. I might try a different camera area as well, possibly just there, so you're looking, you know, because sometimes I like to cut really close up, which it will be here, and I like to see like quite close to my face, and that's what I'm trying to not do, and it's quite hard not to. But anyway, we'll see how we go. There's going to be a few parts of this anyway, isn't there? So being as I've done all that palaver at the beginning, showing you what's going to be used and that, we've only just done sort of the first step this time, but next time we'll try and get a bit more out the way and done. Cheers guys, thanks for staying with me. Hope you're well, hope you'll stay safe, and may the force be with you. See you guys. Ta-ra.